Welcome to Memento Argentum, where remembering the silver screen is a requirement, not a request. I will be your host, E. Lynn, and allow me to tell you a comical tale, which is very much in line with the rest of the week. We apparently had a comedy week this week, which kind of segued from the musical week about 2 weeks ago. Join Detective Frank Drebin and Captain Ed Hocken as they solve the toughest cases, full of all the sight gags, puns, and non sequiturs that made this show so famous. Police Squad, in color, was released in 1982 and stars Leslie Nielsen and Alan North in this 6-episode series. This isn't a request. I'm just doing this because laughter is the best medicine. Even with the state of the world as it is, I feel like I should be wearing that gas mask still, and I just don't want to. It feels a little too morbid, but I felt like this week needed an extra one, and because Court Jester was an extra because of an audio issue, I was like, we need another one. We need 5. So I was like, well, Police Squad's only 6 episodes, so I'm gonna do a review of this. What I forgot was, there are fairly famous, stars from that era that show up in these episodes. The funniest thing about that, though, is the stars don't make it past the opening credits, ever. They never keep the guest star. The guest star always dies in the first, 10 seconds of an episode, and I love it. Some of the gags don't land, some of them don't, but I loved the freeze frame, which is how they ended every episode, because that's the way cop shows always ended. They always freeze framed. The thing is, they only had the actors freeze. They would just stop in whatever position that they had ended up in, and then you just see them holding that position. They're literally holding it. They don't have it frozen. They're literally holding that position while the credits roll. And there are quite a few times where the freeze, they tried to do something slightly different with the freeze frame almost every episode. So one of the episodes has a character walk in on the freeze frame and realize, oh, we're supposed to be frozen. Let me join them. There are so many great things. I think a fire starts in one of the other episodes. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Leslie Nielsen obviously is pure joy in this role. He does a great job as Frank Drebin. His partner, I guess is a good way of putting it, even though it's the guy in charge, Captain Ed Hocken, who's played by Alan North, also did a really great job. He played against Leslie Nielsen perfectly, and any of the actors they had in for the actual episodes instead of just the openings did a great job as well. They were really good at that deadpan. It's very similar to the delivery that you'd find in movies like Airplane, where it's just that deadpan. Shirley, you must be joking. I'm not joking, and don't call me Shirley. It's that deadpan. Cigarette? Yes, I know. It's that sort of comedic timing and just delivery. It's great. I really enjoyed this series, and since it's only 6 episodes, I feel like if you're a fan of comedies, especially Leslie Nielsen comedies, you should give it a watch if you haven't. It's totally worth your time. I forgot it was that short. I grabbed it and I was like, oh man, this is going to be 12 episodes. Then I popped it in and I realized it was 1 disc. And I went, well, they must have smooshed these episodes. Then I took a look at the menu and I was like, this can't be the entire series. And so I looked it up, and yeah, it's only 6 episodes. That is the entire series. And that almost feels like a joke as much as anything else. That almost feels like they went, alright, we're gonna do 6 episodes and that's it. Aren't shows, hey, sir, aren't shows usually 50 episodes or something like that? No, we're doing 6 episodes because we're pointing out the silliness. Because you don't know when it ends, it could continue ad nauseum, even though it's only 6 episodes. So, because I did comedies and musicals prior, I felt it was appropriate to talk about disaster films next. I'm going to be doing disaster films, capping it off with a comedy, of course, the wonderful Airplane, but I am going to be doing. I may turn it into 2 weeks because I recently got a hold of all of the airport movies, but I fully intend to do Airport 75, Towering Inferno, Earthquake, Poseidon Adventure, and Airplane. Now, I may add Airport 79 and Airport 77. So, Airport 79 is Concorde, and then Airport 75 as well, or 77. I may add those in and then just split it into 2 weeks and just do them, just 2 weeks of disaster films. If anyone can think of another one to add to that list, I'm more than willing to listen to, because I was trying to think of other disaster movies from the time period, and those are the majority that I know of. Because a lot of the other disaster films came out in the late 90s into early 2000s for the most part, like Volcano, Dante's Peak, Day After Tomorrow. Like, a lot of disaster films started coming out again in the late 90s, early 2000s, into mid 2000s. But because of my cutoff date, I don't know if there are any that I'm missing, because I'm doing all of the airport movies. I'm doing Towering Inferno, Earthquake, Poseidon Adventure, and Airplane. I don't really want to do Airplane 2 because I only have access to a VHS of that, which would make it a little bit difficult to watch because my VCR is in a weird spot right now. But if anyone's got a suggestion for another disaster flick that I could add to it, I'm all ears, because I do feel like it's a little light on videos to do 2 weeks, but I want to kind of do 2 weeks. That way I can do all of the disaster films all in one go, so I never get a request for them, and I can leave them alone, especially since 2020 is the perfect time to do reviews of disaster movies. And then after that, hopefully I'll be following it up with something comedic. So if you want to find out when I'm releasing new videos, well, I seem to be doing it every other week now. I'm going to be trying to do that in kind of a pattern. But if you really genuinely want to know, become a subscriber. Hit the bell. Show me some love. If you want to show me even more love, join my Patreon. I have one. Shout out to Amanda, because she's awesome. I do think that even though I did a bunch of comedies, if people want me to do more comedies, start suggesting comedies, because I'm more than happy to do more comedies. I could even do really classic ones like Marx Brothers or Abbott and Costello or Laurel and Hardy. Like, if you guys want me to do comedies after Disaster Week or Disaster Weeks, go ahead and request those. But I would prefer trying to do all the disaster movies, because this year seems really appropriate for that. So join me next time for Airport, the original, the very first genuine disaster flick, even though it isn't. Find out what I mean next time. Until then, adieu.